The next topic of the webinar is reading to children. I'm sure we all must have thought of picking great books for our kids. But actually, after this webinar, after this talk, you will all wonder why you have done that. You might even question yourself, and you might question yourself, did I actually do the right thing for my child? Mrs. Sneha Mareen Varghese is working as an associate professor in the Department of Speech Language Studies at Dr. S.R. Chandrasekhar Institute of Speech and Hearing.
Laptop.
And she is currently pursuing her PhD on reading and writing deficits in children. She has more than 10 years of experience in the field, and she's interested in working with children who exhibit language delays and who subsequently present themselves with deficits in reading and writing. She believes that home is where interventions should start from. So we welcome Ms. Sneha Mareen Varghese, and over to you, Sneha.
Okay, good morning all. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Anita Reddy for giving me this opportunity to talk about something that I'm passionate about. So before I start my presentation, let me ask you a question. How do you engage your child at home? Could you please drop a message in the chat box?
One of the parents said that they give coloring task.
Okay. Can we have a few more, please?
And next they are saying playing rhymes on the computer. Activities like grains transfer, ball play, we take him to park, etc.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your response. So you mainly play with your child, you play rhymes. Okay, all these activities are good. We'll get into all those soon. Okay. So when a child is diagnosed with language delay, we always tell you to engage your child at home. When a child is diagnosed with language delay, yes, we always tell you to do some activities at home to facilitate language learning. So you might give them a puzzle board, you might play with them with Play-Doh, and if it's an older child, you might even give Legos and then help them build something. Some parents even feel that, okay, why should I take the pain? Let me just leave them in front of the TV to watch their favorite cartoons. All these activities, yes, it facilitates language learning, but there is something else which would help you improve your child's language and literacy skills simultaneously, and that is exposure to books. Exposing children to books will help your child develop language and literacy simultaneously. Okay, but from my experience, I've always felt that this is the least done activity. There might be many reasons to it. So my observations of not using books frequently are parents are not informed about the need to have rich home literacy environment and the benefits of reading. Then some parents might be feeling that books have nothing to do with an infant and toddler. My child is so young, she or he is an infant. Why should I read to him or her? So that some parents might be feeling like that. Some others might be feeling that books are something that has to be given when they start schooling or just before they start schooling. It could also be because there are lack of quality books available for Indian children. Some parents are not even aware of how to use them, and some parents conveniently, they place their child in front of a laptop or an iPad and give an app because they really don't have to do anything. Children are very smart nowadays. Even a children with special needs, they can also try and then use the gadgets well. So they might feel that an app is better than a book. But I would say there is no app that could replace your lab. You should be reading to your child. So let's get into the topic. The topic for the presentation, this webinar, is reading to children what a parent should know. So just a quick snapshot of what I'll be doing. I'll be giving some introduction about reading, then the benefits of reading, how to select books, what are the types of books that is available, the reading strategies that you could use, ebook or paper book, what is better, and some takeaways. Okay, so if you are reading with your child or reading to your child, it is called as shared reading or joint reading. That is the act of sharing or reading a book with your child. Now, the question is, how early should you start reading? I would say it's never too early to start reading. You can start reading to your child as soon as the child is born. Okay, this might sound a bit wacky, but research indicates that a child or an infant or a toddler who's exposed to book at a very younger stage shows superior skills in language and literacy in later stages of life. Okay, and this is a common scenario that we always see. We Indians get fascinated by someone saying books are so good, so we have the money, we have the resources, so we go to a bookstore and buy as many books as possible. And I'm sure that all of you have these books at home, rhymes book, then my first thousand book, this 1,000 words book. This book is like a must in every household. The number book, alphabet book, and a few of the story books. Okay, so how do we select these books? We look at the cover page. We see how colorful it is. If the pictures are good, we might even turn the pages of the book. We might turn the pages of the book and see how the quality of the book pages. If it's good, then we look at the price. Then we see, we check if it's worth the price. And if we feel that if we get convinced, we go for the book. But we are actually falling for their marketing strategies because they always make the cover page very attractive. The quality of the book would be attractive, but we hardly look into the pages and we don't look into the contents of a particular book. So my advice would be that don't judge a book by its cover, as we know looks are very deceptive. We will get carried away by the cover of the book, but when you look at the content, it would be nothing that has to do with the title, or it may not be appropriate for your child. So how do we select book? So books should be selected based on a few criterion. That is, you can look at the pictures. Pictures should be very clear. For example, this is a book. I'm not sure if you're able to see. So this is a book which has clear pictures. Okay, so pictures should be clear and it should be a simple story. Again, this will depend upon the age of the child. It should not be too long and complicated. So some of the children do have storybooks which are like some 5-6 pages, and the child would be just 1.5 years old. So it should not be too long and complicated. Then pictures of familiar things. That is very important. See, we go to a bookstore and then we find some book. We don't even see who the publisher is. We might buy something that is written for children in the US. So that book might be related to snow. So what is the point in buying a book which talks about snow when a child in Bangalore has not even experienced snow? Yes, he will definitely learn about it later in his life. But then when he is young, why should he know something about snow? But instead, if you buy a book which talks about a visit to a zoo, visit to a park would be definitely be good because we have a lot of parks in Bangalore. You are going to take your child to the park. So a book that is familiar, with which the child is familiar with, will be, you will be able to, the child will be able to connect the content of the book to the real world. That is, when he goes to a park, he will understand that what is written in the book, he can see it in real. So pictures are familiar things. It should be familiar. Action and details in the picture. This is the other thing that I have noticed. There would be a content, there would be a text, that text, and there would be a picture. Picture and text, there won't be any relation. Okay, it might be something totally unrelated to the text of the particular storybook or the book. So the action and details in the pictures are also very important because children like to look at the pictures and learn. That stay in their memory more. So picture salient books will will stay forever in their memory than just having a book which has contents, text throughout from the first page to the last page. And you should also make sure that the action and detail is in congruent with the text of the storybook. Okay, and then interesting to a child. The storybook, just because books are very good for children, don't just go and buy an encyclopedia which a child would never be interested in. Buy something that your child would be interested in, considering his or her age. What are the types of book? There are different types of books with colorful, realistic photographs and pictures. So these types of books will attract a child's attention much easily than a text which is a book which is really long and complicated. It is especially useful for toddlers because they would be able to relate it better. Don't buy books which are not colorful. Buy books which are colorful. And then board books. Board books are again helpful for children, for toddlers. Board books are thick, sturdy books. So it has thick, sturdy pages so that children, toddlers can easily flip through the book pages of the book. And the next is the repetitive books. Repetitive books are particularly helpful in teaching the children about rhyming words. So these books will have words which rhyme. And why is it important? Because we know that rhyming skills is something, is a basic skill that is required for a child to read. So if the child is 1.5 years old, try buying some repetitive books because he will get used to this rhyming words, which will help him in reading when he is 3.5 to 4 years. So that is why repetitive books are good. Then simple story books, you all know that it should not be too long and complicated. It should be simple and there should be a picture. Interactive books. Interactive books are books which have this pop-up images and then flap books. So these kind of books are also used for younger kids, toddlers. Then complicated long books, which is used for older children. So these are some of the common types of books that is available in the market. Okay, now we move on age specific, how to select books. So infants 0 to 6 months, I told you can read to a child right from the time the child is born. So what kind of books can we use? Books with simple, large pictures or designs with bright colors, stiff cardboard, chunky books or fold out books, cloth and soft vinyl books with simple pictures of people or familiar objects. Again, here we are introducing the concept of objects and people because the child is going to experience them sooner. So that is why such kind of books should be used for infants. Infants from 6 to 12 months, again, board books with photos of other babies, brightly colored, chunky board books, then books of familiar objects like balls and bottles. Why bottles and balls? Because by 6 to 12 months, the child will be using this or might have seen these items in their day-to-day life. So you can buy books, again, with photos of familiar objects, then books with sturdy pages, plastic vinyl books for bath time so that it doesn't get wet, then washable cloth books. That is again really good because this is the age when children will start mouthing. They will be handling the books in not in an appropriate way, or you might be exploring the environment, so they would like to bite it. So it's better you buy a book which can be washable. Then small plastic photo albums or family and friends. Young toddlers 12 to 24 months, sturdy books that can be carried, books with photos of other children doing familiar things like sleeping or playing, good night books for bedtime. Okay. When it comes to good night books, there is research which indicates that children who are read to during bedtime show superior language skills compared to their peer group. So bedtime stories are of utmost importance. Then books about saying hello and goodbye because children have to start socializing. So you can introduce this concept through books. Then books with only few words on each page. That is definitely good. The book that I have now, it's Maisie Goes to the Library. It's a Western book, but then the content is so simple. See, only few words are there, and it has a picture too. So books with few words, then books with simple rhymes. Again, rhymes because you are preparing child for reading and writing. Animal books of all sizes and shapes. When it comes to toddlers, books that tell simple stories, you are introducing simple stories, simple rhyming books, bedtime books, books about counting, alphabet, shapes, and size. So this becomes important when the child is nearly 2 years. Don't buy books, alphabet books, number book when the child is 1 year. You will have to concentrate on books which will facilitate language learning when the child is really young. Then books with their favorite TV characters, that will again be good because they can relate it well. Books about saying hello and goodbye. Okay, so the first picture here, this is an illustration book and books with illustrations, and the second one is the interactive book, which I told there are pop-out animals here. This is a board book. Okay, now the question is, does the type of book influence how parents read to their children? My answer would be yes. Because let's take an example. You have an alphabet number book and you have a story book. So when you deal with numbers, alphabets, you will be talking about alphabets, how the letters look, or the numbers, how it looks. When it comes, but you are doing it at the expense of case where you can initiate conversation. That is, if you're using a storybook, you can actually engage your child a lot. But if you're using alphabet and number book, you can just talk only about numbers. So introducing a storybook along with that will help you in initiating a conversation. You can talk about the pictures, you can talk about the events, you can pause for the child to come up with to initiate the conversation. So all this can be done. But there is one research which talks about, which compares the reading strategies used by parents. The type of book would influence how parents read. Answer is yes. So the difference is that, so if we compare a alphabet book and a story book, so when a normal parent has a critically developing child talks about the content of the book of an alphabet book, they speak more about, or they interact more when it comes to alphabets and numbers, and then interact at the expense of a conversation that a parent would elicit if they had used a storybook. That means they tend to interact more when an alphabet book is used than when a storybook is used. This could explain parents are very ambitious, they want their child to perform well in school, so that could be the reason. But when it came to language, children who had language impairment, their parents, they tried, they interacted more when a storybook was used, not so much when an alphabet and number book was used. Because right now their concern is that they want their child to speak. But we should always think that if a child has a spoken language disorder, there are high chances that the child will may end up having reading and writing disorder. So type of book and reading of parents do have an impact, does influence. Okay, so reading to an practice that you could use while reading to an infant. So infant, I think that's the best time when you can expose your child to books, because that infant will not tell that mama don't read or papa don't read. The child will be willing to listen to his mother's voice. The child will be very much interested in. You could modulate your voice and then read to your child. So read a book that is appropriate for his or her age. Then read to younger child. You need to relate the book to the child's own experience. Okay, so children love when there are characters which they can relate to their life. So as I said previously, don't buy a book that's not appropriate to Indian kids. Buy a book which the child can relate to, which he should be able to make a connection with his life. Comment on the story. That is, when there is something interesting in the picture, you can just comment about that. If there's a dog, you can say, "Oh, that dog is very, it's huge, it's big." Okay, comment about it, or you can even make fun of the animal, the kind of drawing that is there, so that you will get some kind of response from the child. Pause. You wait for the child to scan through. You talk about the book. Give the child adequate time to scan through the pictures. Don't flip through the pictures fast. Just like how an adult read. Don't do that. If you're talking about some concept in the in the book, let the time to look at the pictures, scan through each of the items that you said. Sometimes we might even be able to elicit some kind of response from the child. Imitate the child. So we won't adult like word, but we might definitely get an approximation to an adult utterance. So we always should imitate your child's utterance. You can tell it correctly. You don't have to tell that what you told is wrong, but you can while you imitate the child, expand on it. You can expand more. If there's a particular word, you can talk about the big brown dog. If the child just says dog, you can tell the big brown dog. So you give a child an opportunity to fill in the blanks. So this is especially useful when you're using the same book multiple times. So if you're using the same story book over a period of time, the child would have already got some concept of the book. Next time, you just give him a chance to come up with to respond. So you can give a time wherein you don't leave one particular word so that you can elicit that word from the child. Question use. This is very important strategy. So questions are really good, but many times we often fail to use it well. We always like to test our child's knowledge. We want to know if the child knows this item, that item. So question should not be to test the child's knowledge, but it should be something that will help you elicit some responses from the child. It should help in back and forth communication. So that don't question your child to test his or her knowledge. He's still developing, or he might be having a language delay. You should always consider that and then ask questions. Question also, it can be WH questions. WH questions are you ask questions, but don't ask why question to a child who's 2 years, because he wouldn't have started his reasoning skills. So you need to wait. There's an age for a child to achieve all the skills. So until then, please ask questions wisely. Read with enthusiasm. We never liked a teacher who was very boring, who never used to modulate their voice. We never liked it when we studied. Same is the case with the child. Child likes modulates her or his voice, who has a lot of animations on the face. So read with enthusiasm. Don't ever feel that, okay, this is a hectic job, why should I do it? With that attitude, if we read, I'm sure that the child is not good at it. So, the reader should be enthusiastic. They should modulate their voice and then do it. So all these strategies were to facilitate language learning. So I have told that you can even prepare the child for reading and writing, the future reading and writing. So when you take a book, you should always read the title. So I haven't seen parents reading this, so they directly go to the content of the book. You should always read about the title of the book, because you are telling indirectly that every book has a title, and you have an author. You can talk about the author. You can also say that books have pages. Then you can say that a storybook starts from the first page and ends with the last page. These are the things which were taught. Nobody would have taught us explicitly, but nowadays the literacy habits of parents have also gone down. So this kind of things we need to definitely tell. When a child has a delay, you can always tell that books, print is from left to right. You should flip the pages, and you can even talk about the concepts of print, how letters are formed, lowercase, uppercase, similar sounds, similar alphabets. You can talk about it. You can also talk about the how to hold a book. So during olden days, we would have seen our grandfathers, parents reading newspapers. Nowadays, everything is online, so we are so comfortable reading news on our mobiles. As Aishwarya mentioned yesterday, your child will be seeing you looking at mobile, but the child won't. We would have seen our grandfathers holding the newspaper, how it has to be held, but nowadays kids don't get that opportunity. So you can also talk about how to hold a book. So these are some of the concepts which you can teach a younger child. If you're reading to an older child, strategy that you can remember is this is a word PEER, which is an acronym for prompt, evaluate, expand, repeat. This is an evidence-based strategy that certifications. So what do you mean by this? Let's go step by step. What do you mean by prompt? How do you prompt a child? You can ask your child a question or invite your child to talk about something that is there in the book. Why do you do this? You are actually prompting your child to focus their attention onto the content of the book. So that will help them learn the new words in the book. For example, if there's a book which has a fox in the picture, you can ask, what is that? Okay, so then you can elicit the response. So there are different ways to prompt also. So some of the methods are like, again, this is an acronym, CROWD, which means completion, recall, open-ended, WH questions, distance. Completion means, see, suppose the child is not responding, you can use these strategies to to bring out a response in the child. Completion means you don't complete okay, then you wait for the child to respond. Recall, suppose you have done the reading, you can ask the child what was happening in the book. You can ask a question like that. And open-ended means most times we are so comfortable asking closed-ended question. That is, we want our child to respond. So what do? Is we'll ask point to pen, point to this. So questions are very closed-ended. They just point and then it ends there. But if you ask a question, what is happening in this picture? You can elicit more responses from your child. Help your child to come out with words. I'm sure that it's going to be tough job, but then if you ask an open-ended question to a child who has certain language skills, you cannot ask this to a child who is totally non-verbal. If the child is verbal, you can definitely ask an open-ended question, WH question. Again, I said, don't try to test the knowledge of your child. Try to ask WH questions to initiate back and forth communication. And then finally, distance. Distance is like, you should be able to, when you tell a story, you try to connect with the child's life. So if there is something about a zoo and a child is feeding some animal, you can always tell, see, don't you remember the other day we went to the zoo and we fed the ducks? So something like that. You can always talk about that also. So the crowd is a way of talking. Prompt. Now we'll move to the second one. Evaluate. Evaluate. Think about what your child just said. Was the answer correct? If the answer was correct, you tell yes, that was correct. And if it was wrong, please be gentle and provide the right answer. So here is sometimes we go wrong here. When the child says correct answer, we take it for granted. We don't even reinforce. See, all of us work better when we get reinforced. As we like to hear from our that we cooked well. Okay, if we are working mothers, we would like to hear from our boss that we did a good job. So we all live with reinforcement. So if child gives a correct response, or if it's just an approximation of you praise the child, but don't overdo it, because overdoing reinforcement will also distract the child from what you're doing. Just you can say that I really like the way you said that. If there is a word, you can say that, and then the thing is wrong. Be gentle and provide the right answer. Sometimes we get frustrated because the child is not answering well. So we might shout at them, yell at them, but that's not the way to do it. Be gentle and provide the right answer. So there is an example that the child sees a fox and child calls that a dog, but we can always say yes, it looks like a dog, but it's actually a fox. So be gentle when you provide the right answer. So the third step is to examine what the child said. So if you're looking at if the child gives a response, suppose the child tells it's a fox. Okay, you can talk more about the fox, because when you talk more about the fox, you are actually introducing new words that the child can form an association with the word that you told and the word that he said. So this will help the child in building a word association. So here the child told it's a fox. You can expand saying, yes, it's a fox trying to reach the grapes. So that is an expansion that you gave. And finally, the last step is to repeat the new information and language. So ask your child to repeat your expanded or corrected answer. So why do you do this? Because you want your child to use the new language that you added, and that will help them in learning new words. So that's very important. You should repeat the new information so that it stays in the child's memory. Okay, so you can ask like, can you say that? Or what is it again? Can you say it a few times? Trying to reach grades, something like that. You can bring it in your way of using the strategies while reading. So please remember the word peer when you deal with a child who is old enough to understand that. And for prompting, please remember the word that is strategies that you can use to prompt a child to elicit, to come out with utterances. So since we are in the digital era, and we know that the children are in front of TV, have a lot of educational resources, I thought of including this also, that is e-books or paper books. We are familiar with paper books, but the current generation have a lot of resources available. I would say screen is good. Like how Aishwarya said, for a certain duration, if you expose your child, it's good. But you need to plan that duration well. So if you are going for an ebook, definitely you can go for it. But I personally would say it's good. Maybe because I'm not so used to ebook. But what literature says is that children learn early literacy skills from good quality ebooks. They interact longer with parents. It is convenient and accessible. Children with developmental delay may benefit from ebooks. Now, when it comes to good quality ebooks, it's very difficult to find in India because a parent should first monitor the content of the story. Okay, there are so many things which is not appropriate, which is not culturally appropriate. So first, parents should scrutinize the content of the story and then expose the child to ebook if you are using it. There are research comparing ebooks and paper books. So there's one research which talks that, which reports that parents don't use many strategies while using an ebook. So they use very less strategies, the strategies which I mentioned previously. They talk very less to the child when it is ebook, and children learn less from the screen. That's because there is less interaction there. Okay, so now going on to the next topic. So we learned what are the books available, what are the types of books, what are the strategies of books. So why am I importance of exposing books to children? The reason why the benefits of shared reading. So let's see what are the benefits. So these are the benefits that, again, it's not reported by me, it's reported in literature, which says that children will learn vocabulary, they will understand letter formations, print awareness, parent, cognitive development is better, grammar is better, reading and writing is better, and even mathematical skills are better. Okay, so I'm interested in vocabulary, letter formations, grammar, reading and writing. So we would like to see these kind of improvements in children. So exposing books will definitely be a good option. So we are actually preparing the child for future literacy. So right now the child may not be the skill, but definitely you are preparing your child to achieve reading and writing, which will happen after 2 years. Okay, so now so that you can read later. So if you do expose your child books now, yes, you will definitely read good reading and writing skills in a child later. So I'll just give you an example. So preschoolers whose parents read to them, tell stories to them, sing songs, tend to develop larger abilities and become better readers and perform better in school. So this is something that you should be aware of. To explain it in simple manner, if you invest vocabulary at preschool, that means if you are your child where he can learn a lot of vocabulary at preschool level, you can withdraw reading comprehension when they are in third grade. So if a child has vocabulary skills at school level, his reading comprehension at third grade level will definitely be good. So this is again a research evidence. There is Indian studies also which report of the same thing. So this is again something that you need to keep in mind. Build the language at an early stage. You can definitely improve the reading and writing skills of the child, which is going to be developed later in life. So with this, I close my presentation. I have a few takeaways. That is, start reading as early as possible to your child. Prepare your child to achieve future literacy by exposing to books and doing all kinds of activities. Then be cautious while selecting books. Let us not fall for the marketing strategies. Let's look at the content of the book, and based on the age of the child, let us keep changing the books. Don't let us not stick to right language skill of the child. You should be able to. You should be changing the kind of books that the children are exposed to. Then do multiple readings of the same book. So just because books are good, so if you're using the same storybooks multiple times, children will learn those words much better than if you're exposing the child to multiple books where the same words are written. So use the same book multiple times so that the learning is better. Then use various strategies while interacting with, be an enthusiastic reader, use various strategies by just giving the book to the child. Don't assume that the child will learn everything by himself. No, learn. If you want the child to improve, or if you want to facilitate language and literacy learning, you should definitely use various strategies to your while reading a book. Then provide a rich home literacy environment. Don't just think that okay, I've read this child and I'm done with it. No, even parents' literacy habits have major role to play in child's life, because he's actually observing his environment. He learns from his environment. So you should be providing a rich home literacy environment. And finally, a child who has delay in spoken language at a preschool level, or a younger child who has a language deficit, are highly likely to have reading and writing deficit. So when we understand the child has reading and writing deficits, normally when they start going to school. But you should understand a child who has language deficits can actually have reading and writing deficits in future. So start from the beginning itself. Start doing a literacy activities, and one such activity which will help in building language and literacy is book interaction. So I would like to end my presentation with a quote: "The fire of literacy is sparked between a child, a book, and a person reading." So child is not the only responsible person. Child is important. The type of book is important, and the reader is important. Reader need not be mother always. I would like to stress on that, because getting reports which say that fathers interact better than mothers. So fathers are always, they try to put the blame on the mother. No, it's not like that. Both parents have mother and father have equal responsibility to interact with their child. So child, book, and the person reading, all these components together will facilitate the literacy acquisition in children. So with that, I would like to end talk. I hope you would use some of the strategies at least which I have discussed now. So I'd like to close. These are my acknowledgements. Thank you so much for your patient listening.
Thank you, Ms. Sneha. That was a very good presentation. Hello?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
It was a very good presentation, and we can actually see your passion in your area of interest, and you've done an excellent presentation, I should say. I wish I had known this before. I wish all parents would have joined this webinar. Anyway, it's now not too late, but with this video this webinar will be available on the institute website. So whoever would like to go through this again, you can visit the institute website, Dr. Chandrasekhar Institute of Speech and Hearing. Thank you.